The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is André, and I'm your host. Big thanks to Uka the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers, and big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to another action-packed, fun-filled show. And by action-packed, I mean quiet, contemplative discussion about comic books, science fiction, and in this case, comic book conventions. Good to be back. Today's guest is Don Mann, who is one of the co-creators and organizers of the East Coast Comic Expo. And I always thought it'd be fun to have one of these Comic-Con or sci-fi convention people on the show to sort of discuss, you know, what goes on with those sort of events. As a podcast initially began as a strict love of comics and kind of worked into just being an interview show about people related to the sci-fi comics industry and around. It's a place that I've always felt at home at, you know. It's one word that comes up a lot in this conversation with Don, and I talk about it too, is the word community. And it's about, you know, Don grew up in a small area very close to where I grew up and where I live now, in fact, where there wasn't a lot of access to other people that were into the same things you were at the time you were. And, you know, there's a longing for a sense of community, for a sense of your tribe, people that are into the things you are in, and that you can sit and just sort of discuss about all the aspects of what you love together. And that's like, nothing's a better feeling than when you can sort of geek out with someone about movies or comics or books or something you're passionate about that they also are passionate about. And based on my conversation with Don, it sounds like he was looking for that for a lot of his life until he kind of found it and quickly found a way to bring it to everyone else by doing these comic conventions. And it was a really cool conversation. Don's a great guy, one I've known for a while now, and one I'm looking forward to catching up with again soon when the, you know, things kind of get back to normal-ish, which they kind of are now. I mean, today was the first day. I'm filming this on Monday. It'll drop on Saturday. But it's the first day that Nova Scotia has lifted the mask mandate, so people are walking around without them in stores. And I went to the gym without one, and it was an interesting experience. I'm so used for over 2 years putting a mask on in between sets, in between lifting weights, that it feels really naked to not have to go find the mask or take it off my wrist and put it on my face to walk to the next machine. So it's been interesting. I mean, I know it's only been a couple of years, but they say it takes, like 3 months to make something a habit. So 2 years is a lot longer than that. But, you know, I'm obviously following public safety. I'm not doing anything untoward, following what's supposed to be done. And if things go back to the way they were, I'm quite ready to do as such. But I'm also just trying to live within the guidelines that our trusted government officials are giving us. I know that phrase may anger some people. I'm not saying that I trust them, but, you know, I do trust science generally. And I think Dr. Strang, the medical officer here, who's kind of keeping us all on track, is doing a good job. So I would like to see that trend continue, and hopefully things get safer and better as the years go on and we can put this behind us. But, you know, we also have to be pragmatic and careful. I am going to be at a comic convention for the first time, I think, since this has started, in fact. In 2 years. A new convention that is in PEI. And that is this weekend. I will be there, set up with my booth, selling some of my art prints, which are available to see on social media at André Myatt, I think it's art page. And I usually share some of it on my personal social media if you're on there, if you're one of the lucky few to be welcomed into the 2,000 friends I have on Facebook. But yeah, definitely check out that. In my personal life, not much going on. I did see the new movie by Ty West X, which is kind of an homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and to horror movies of the 70s. It was very, very good, and I highly suggest it. As far as comic book and nerdy movies go, I haven't seen anything that has come out that would fall into that realm. I did have an incident, which I talked about on my personal social media. One evening, I was, actually St. Patrick's Day, I was coming home from hanging out with a few friends, and I saw a raccoon on the side of the road, and it moved its head to look at me. It was lying there. as I drove by and I realized it was, still alive, so I pulled over my vehicle and I walked up to it. And it was apparent that it could move. It could move its head, but the rest of its body seemed to not be able to move, or it was stunned or hurt. So I was trying to call someone, wildlife or whatever, that could help. I mean, maybe they couldn't save the animal, but at least they could euthanize it, stop it from getting pulped on the road. And as I was doing that, a young lady pulled over in her car and asked if I'd hit it. I said no, but I just came across it. I'm trying to help. She called her father, who was a former natural resources officer. And he was trying to figure out with her on the phone something to do. And as they were talking, a car came over the hill. Now, the raccoon was not in the middle of the road. It was off to the side. I was standing in front of it, and I waved at the car. There was lots of room for it to go around. It made no effort to go around. In fact, it put on its high beams and sped up. So I yelled, I waved my arms. As I got closer, I had to move out of the way, and it proceeded to run right over the raccoon and just continue on its way. I have never been more angry, I think, in my life. I'm not an angry person. I don't get angry very often. I'm more of a person to get hurt than to get angry. However, I was mad, and I couldn't believe what I'd seen and that this person had done this, had made no effort to stop or slow down. And as I said in my post, I really hope wherever they had to be was important. Because, I sat with the young lady that was with us. I said, I think it's not going to matter now. And she left. And I stayed with the raccoon as it just shook all over the road until it was dead. And it was one of the hardest things I ever had to watch. And I know, I'm not trying to say I don't want to think I'm some kind of emotionally weak person that's unable to withstand that sort of thing. But watching something convulse until it's dead, whether it be a human being or an animal, is tough. And I kind of wish I believed in karma, because I'd like whoever that person was to experience some kind of comeuppance on a cosmic level. I don't really believe in a God or an afterlife. I kind of hope it exists, but I don't really believe in it. Yeah, I just was sad. It made me angry and then sad. So I used a snow shovel I had in my car left over from winter to move the animal off the road. So after it expired, I stayed with it until it was gone and went home. And I often talk about with people that, I don't really believe in karma or an afterlife. I'm kind of a nihilist in a way, in that the universe, I don't really believe that anything has a meaning. There's no purpose to all of this. I think the only meaning we find in life is the meaning we make with the connections we make, the kindness we show, the respect we have for others, for animals, and for each other. And that's where the meaning lies to me, is, the people and those connections we make. So, I'm always saying that we need to be kinder to each other, to animals, to other people. And that person wasn't. That person obviously had something to do, somewhere to be. Didn't seem to care. Almost hit me, so didn't seem to care about that either. And went on their way. I'd like to say it was an accident. I don't know. It doesn't really matter anymore. But that being said, if this incident can be any kind of a lesson can be learned, I suppose it's kindness. It's maybe slowing down and seeing if something needs help or someone needs help, and not barreling through like a wrecking ball and taking maybe life that didn't need to be taken. So, if I can stress anything, it's be kind to each other, to animals, to those around you, because that's all we really have, guys, is each other. This world and each other, and we have to work together to keep it. And I don't mean to bring it down, but I feel like that's something that happened to me that, I want to talk about. And if anything, that could maybe make you think a little more about those around you and keeping those connections strong. So that's all we have, folks, is each other. So try to remember that. But let's shed that dour thought and go back to today's conversation. As I mentioned before, Don's super cool guy, very generous with his time. Great to have him in the show, and as I mentioned, I'm going to try to help as I can to help him get in contact with more guests to make the event bigger and brighter. Community would be the theme of this episode, and it definitely shines through. And I hope you enjoy it. So without much further ado, let's talk to my guest this week, Don Mann. There you go.
There we go. Got it.
Hey, there he is.
There we go.
Hey, man, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How are you?
In Truro.
Yeah, I can't complain. So it snowed a little bit today, but not very
Yeah,
much. It's hovering right around the 0 1. We had like the weekend. It was like 12 degrees or 14 or 15 or something. We
yeah.
got super.
We had a couple days like that up here too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome,
it's been cooler today, but not too bad.
excellent. How are you doing, man? Health wise, I haven't really talked to you since you had your health issue.
And yeah, no, I'm doing pretty good. I'm like I said, back to work and feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, doing still doing some cardiac rehab. I got my last one this week, and then beyond that, it's walking lots and getting back to full on in life's everyday glory of working and then doing other things.
So is this just a straight up heart attack? Was it?
Yeah, it was triple. I had a triple bypass, but yeah, it was a heart attack. Ended up with a triple bypass and a valve replacement.
Jeez. Oh my God. How's the
Yeah.
recovery on that, man? How long were you out for? I mean, you just get back now, but I can't remember exactly when you announced you were sick.
Yeah, I was off work for 8 months.
Wow.
But that's part of the reason for that is they had doctor issues when I was in the hospital. They also couldn't see the valve, and they took 3 attempts for them to get to look at the valve, see if that had to be replaced, and that slowed me down a couple of weeks. And not having a family doctor since I moved from Halifax up here, that just makes things move slower.
Yeah, no, for sure. I had the not an even comparison, but I had myocarditis.
Yeah.
From I don't mean whether it's from the vaccine or not is arguable because it was like a month after I got it. So, the timeline's kind of weird, but regardless, having something wrong with your heart and sitting in the hospital is not a fun experience. And I feel like, I mean, I didn't have the same as you. I had to take probably some of the same medications you're on, like Prindapol and a few of the other ones, to kind of thin your blood and also make your heart kind of help heal your heart. While I was recovering, I'm off all that now, but because I'm pretty much back to normal as far as everything goes. But like, there's something about when you have an issue with your heart that like really makes you feel so fragile. Like, I don't know about you, but for me anyway, for the first few weeks after I got to the hospital, I was like they're like, you can work out, you can go wrestle, it's fine, you're fine. And I'm like, really? Like, like I'd be doing stuff, and anytime I feel anything, like even just like heartburn or something, you're like, is it back? Like,
yeah,
terrifying.
You're definitely extra careful after that. But I couldn't do anything for 2 or 3 weeks after I had my surgery because, of course, the incision was because it was open heart because of how much work they had to do, the fact that they had to replace the valve. So it was you had to wait for that to heal up before you could do a whole lot. But trying to walk, and they gave me kind of a timeline. I felt like I was ahead of the timeline most of the time, so that was good. But
that's really good.
Yeah,
I'm glad, man. I'm really glad to hear you're all right.
Well, me too. Yeah. So, I don't recommend.
If there's like a rating system for heart attacks, it's like 0 stars, do not recommend on Mann.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So where was your genesis, your origin story? Where did you start at?
For
in general, in life, where were you born?
Just in life. Okay, my origin story. I was born in Moncton, lived there for close to 2 years with my parents in a basement apartment. And then I don't know if it was when they knew that a second kid was coming or not, but around that time we moved to a house over Riverview and lived there until the end of junior high. Went to Hilden for high school. So I was out in Brookfield. And
also down my neck of the woods.
Yeah,
right on.
Down to Halifax after that for university, and I ended up living in Halifax off and on, pretty much more on until 2002.
What did you take in university?
I was taking different things, mostly arts and stuff like that. I never ended up finishing my degree, but went to college, got a college in Truro for 1 year, and got a where did I get there? Bookkeeping diploma. And where else did I go to? I went to a radio broadcasting college in Halifax for a year.
Oh,
Didn't
cool.
end up finishing that either. I didn't have enough money to keep going, so I had to go out and work.
What was when you were focusing on the arts? What kind of art were you focusing on?
I was looking at writing and stuff like that. I wrote a bit for the St. Mary's newspaper when I was there, and looking at kind of stuff like that. I talked a lot about music groups that were playing in town, some bands that were coming to town. There was one place, the Flamingo, that I hung out at a lot, so I wrote a lot about what was playing there and did some album reviews and stuff like that.
Excellent. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Was comics always a thing for you as a kid?
Yeah. Comics. As long as I can remember, I was reading comics. I'd go to my cousin's place up on the Miramichi for the summer, and there'd always be comics there that I would read. And then I don't know if you know what Reed's is. Reed's bookstores.
Yeah, there's one in Moncton, isn't there?
Yeah, there's one in Moncton. There used to be two in Moncton. There used to be one down in Halifax, but the ones in Moncton I used to haunt every Saturday pretty much. They had books in the upper racks, but they had comics for like 25 cents or something like that people would trade in. And I just bought as many as I could. My dad would come home from traveling for the week and go and buy novels to read while he's away again. And I would buy comics and stuff like that.
What did your dad do?
He was a traveling salesman for Canada Cement. So he was going to different ready-mix plants and stuff like that and selling product to them.
I'll talk about a job you don't see much anymore. Traveling salesman.
No. When we moved in 1980 to Hilden, they had opened a trucking depot down there, and we moved down so he could be the manager of that.
Oh, okay. It's kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, got him off the road.
Yeah, it's a hard road. That's a hard life on the road. For sure.
Yeah.
So the comics you were reading, what were your standbys?
I was mostly a DC guy, but there was a lot of the DC war stuff from the early 70s. I also read Richie Rich and Archie and Justice League, Justice Society. Didn't see a lot of Marvel stuff until I started buying my own. My cousins didn't seem to read much of that. And then when I started getting into Legion of Superheroes by Paul Levitz and his run with a bunch of different
the Great Darkness saga and all that stuff.
The Keith Giffen stuff. Yeah, I love that stuff. Was there for New Teen Titans from the beginning. The new X-Men, I jumped on it probably around issue 125. I had, as far as new ones, I had bought some of the back issues previous to that. And Avengers I was following at the time. I love to read whatever I could get my hands on. And luckily, I had friends in our circle. One guy was a Spider-Man buff, so you could read his Spider-Man comics. Another guy was a Hulk guy, so you could read his Hulk stuff. And then me and the fourth guy, we were kind of had similar DC interests with the Justice League and Titans and stuff like that.
Awesome. Was that something that was sort of encouraging as to your wanting to write, or is the writing more journalistic in what you wanted?
No, I thought about writing comics and stuff too like that. I never have. Actually, I in high school I did a bit of writing and drawing, but I never continued beyond there. Something I'd like to do, but I'd have to know that I can survive financially. So it hasn't happened.
Yeah, I know. There's a part. It's funny because it's you're a guy that has a lot of stuff going on, obviously, myself included.
Yeah.
So, it's like there's this draw to you to want to do these creative outlets for forever and to make your life based on them. But there's a harsh reality that comes. And like you when you hear these people, because I talk to a lot of folks that have, made it in comics. And when you're talking to them, you're just like, they're like, yeah, it just sort of fell into it and this worked out and that worked out. And I'm like, oh my God, like, there's a part of me that's like, how did this work for you? Like I just found this guy in a message board who hooked me up and now I'm, draw for Marvel. And it's like, oh my God, like and all of them will tell you the same thing, that it's, obviously the talent was there, but also a bit of luck, but also they were out there, promoting themselves. So there's a level of that too. But man, some of them you just can't imagine how like they just lucked into it. It's amazing. Yeah,
it's different than when I was a kid, and that's part of why Free Comic Day I think is good, and conventions like ours is good. is that younger people get a chance to meet people who are doing the creative end of stuff like that, and can realize that, it's not some unattainable goal or anything like anymore. Because I knew quite a few guys, at least, two guys I think could have been professional artists easily, and others that, if they kept working, might have gotten there, and other people that were interested in writing. That back before internet days, and back in the 80s and stuff like that, it was not as easy to understand that. You always figured, okay, you have to live in New York or wherever the publishers are. Whereas today, knowing the people I know and stuff like that, you can live anywhere and find an audience and find publishers that will publish your stuff and things like that. So it's changed quite a bit. So, which is good. I think you get more voices.
Yeah, a lot of the older folks I speak to that have been through it and at the other side and still at it. It's a lot of this, like just going to a Toronto convention with a portfolio or meeting somebody that can put you in the right place somewhere. But all the new stuff is mainly just sending emails or getting a webcomic going, which leads to this, which leads to that. But you're right, it is like, to me, I didn't really see much. When did Free Comic Book Day start proper? Like in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Trying to think if we just went past the 20th anniversary, so probably 2000-ish.
Yeah, so even me to go to one, I think one of the first ones I went to was probably when I was in my early 20s. So and even just to see Darwin Cook, who was at the time living in Halifax, and all these other guys that work for Marvel that are just like living there. And a lot of people like Ed Brisson and Jed McKay, people I've talked to on here, have moved down this way. I mean, Jed's from PEI, but have moved down this way because they can kind of work anywhere they want to. And they've, fell in love with the area when they come out of conventions and get to know the place. So it's pretty cool that you can kind of make your art anywhere now. And
yes, definitely. Yeah. It allowed Nick to come back home. And, we've had other guests at both Halifax shows and our show in Moncton who said, they'd love to live down here, that the cost of living is a lot more efficient and better for people that are, especially Ed, who came from Vancouver and kept having to move further out from the downtown area and stuff like that because prices kept skyrocketing, and people from, Ontario with the same thing. It's just a more cost-efficient place to live. So,
yeah,
it was always good to see more people wanting to come this way, whether, there's also other factors in deciding if they're going to move or not. So they don't want to come this way, but
so
it's nice to have a good community out here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what career did you end up in? Like, what are you doing now?
I work as an inventory clerk at a warehouse that warehouses for Shoppers Drug Mart and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Kind of an American Splendor vibe.
Yes.
Like a Harvey P. car working at the middle of the VO, and that's so fun. Very cool. So, I mean, as far as the genesis of your life leading you towards East Coast Comic Expo, because that's probably your biggest involvement with the comic industry mostly.
The community. Sure,
yeah. So, like, were you a part of like the artist and comic community just through other people that were into comics in the area, or is it something that like you seeked out other people that were also trying to get something going, or is it just like you were part of a community, realized you didn't have anything, and kind of got the ball rolling?
It's always I've always had aspirations of doing something more, and with the writing and art was never going to be my thing. The writing I could probably do if I come up with stories and write things, but it's never polished or anything like that. I never finish it off. But
yet,
and I thought about doing having my own store, whether it was up here or even in Truro at times, and thinking of my parents are still in Truro, so I've thought about going back there, and if I could afford it, and opening up a shop down there, and even the Halifax area. But I thought about it. Just kind of really kept to myself for a while, but meeting the guys from Strange Adventures, Cal and Dave, and the guys that were there in the early years, to me, that was the first time I really felt a sense of community in the comics. I'd go into shops and just leave, not really, talking to people, but not really getting to know them, I guess. And so that started it. Then when I came up here, a couple years after I moved up here, the owners of Gamezilla asked me if I'd be interested in managing their comic accounts at the Moncton store. And that got me to where I got to meet, a lot of the community and stuff like that. And when we first started out at Ubu, I think we were the only comic store here. I'm not sure if Comic Hunter might have been in, but they were relatively new at the time. And oh, my phone's going off. We'll ignore that.
Okay.
So getting to know the community, I got to know, how many certain people in the community that were invested in comics more than just as readers and stuff like that. And having got to know people in Halifax and here in Moncton, and learning more about some of the guys up in Fredericton and stuff like that, realizing that, in PEI, there's some really solid comic talent. Darwin was in the area at the time, and Brian Lee O'Malley was, and his former partner were down in Halifax area, and there was people around. So you started to realize that we now have the population density of Toronto, but the population spread out over Atlantic Canada is pretty similar, and a lot of the talent, the community is there. It's just spread out a little bit more.
Yeah, and they'll travel for it.
Yeah, you'd travel for it. So the idea for East Coast Comic Expo was just let's get all those people together in one place at least once a year and have a comic show. Because Nick had come back from Nick Bradshaw had come back from Ontario to Moncton, and he had always bought his comics at Gamezilla. So I got to meet him when he came back, and we became friends. And he and me and Derek Hansen, also one of the show's organizers, would go on road trips to Fredericton so he could do an in-source signing, or we'd get him down to Halifax or whatever was going on. We would get him around and go with him and kind of help him with his setup and stuff like that, and hang out while things are going on. And you begin to realize that also becoming friends with a guy who's on the inside, you realize, okay, he's a resource to, my idea was a resource to at least tell us how we should treat talent when they come to town. What's going to make them like our show, give positive reviews when they leave, and have a good time while they're here and stuff like that. And also, I'd never been to a comic convention, so my thing was, okay, he can tell me, what the do's and don'ts are, like stuff that is going to piss off talent and stuff that is going to make them have an enjoyable time. And so as I get to learn the community, there was people that I said, okay, I could work with that guy. I could work with that guy. And there was Derek was interested in I was the manager at Gamezilla at the time. Got to know Derek fairly well, and Derek was talking about maybe doing a show as well. So I knew that there was interest out there and stuff like that. And Bern O'Hara, was when the first Iron Man movie came out, he was really keen on doing as much of the community based on how well the movie did, to let people know where to go. So we had a whole setup at the premiere where we let people know, if you like this, come on down to Gamezilla, and you can buy all kinds of different stuff there.
That's smart, very smart.
He came up with, I think, a flyer or something like that, and Rob, the owner of Gamezilla, footed the bill to make some copies of it that we handed out to people coming into the movie and stuff like that. And then, like I said, there was a display there with the graphic novels and some of the toys, whatever we had on hand that was Iron Man related. And so I knew that Brent was interested in the community, and he also writes for I don't know if it still exists, but there was a thing called Advanced Iron, which was an Iron Man fan thing. I think a magazine that they did online. Mm-hmm. And I know I follow it, and I know there's guys on there still once in a while, but I don't think they actually put content together anymore. It's just more like a fan interaction space now. But Brent had written for that, different aspects of Iron Man, and he was creating a story that he with Madame Mask from the Iron Man thing and Iron Man and stuff like that, so that he was going to print in that. So I knew that he was interested in, the community. And there's other people I met that I just, people I thought were smart, level-headed, and pretty keen on the community, and were more than just readers. I guess they had more levels to their interest than that, and I just kind of talked about it. And, Craig told me that Derek was interested, and Craig being the manager of Gamesville at the time, and so I just kind of went, okay, here's a group of, I think we invited, I say maybe 20, 24 people to our first meeting. I just said, hey, can you guys send them Facebook message off to about all those people? I'd have to go back and look and see how many it was, but and you guys want to meet at I guess we went to Boston Pizza. We had a drink. I kind of told them my idea, and said, if you guys are interested in doing this, I'd love to do it. Said, I want to do it in May, 3 weeks. I already knew that I kind of wanted to do it 3 weeks after Free Comic Book Day, get past the Mother's, I think in Moncton, we had a beer fest the next weekend. So I knew that would be out for having a show in town, because there'd be a lot of people invested, especially people that I knew that would help me organize, would be wanting to go to the beer fest. Yeah. And then Mother's Day was the weekend after that. So we knew that wouldn't really work. So we jumped to the long weekend, which I liked the idea of the long weekend, because it gave us an extra day. It gave me a day, which I really needed after the first one, and the consequent and the successful ones as well. As it gave me a day to kind of recuperate before I had to go back to work on my regular job. The Monday was just my day to rest. Yeah. So
one thing I've noticed you mention a lot when you're talking is the word community, which is interesting to me, because you obviously grew up in an era reading comics where to find other people that were probably into what you're into were probably few and far between.
It was tough. Yeah. And to me, I think, and like I said earlier, if there had been more of a community back then that you could touch. So I'm not much, I communicate better with people one-on-one or with them in real life, not through letters or stuff like that, or back in the day it would have been letters or other, it's just I'm more engaged if it's in real life. So it's just to not have, I knew a few people, but it was never a large community. Like I said, there was, I think when I was in junior high, like I said, there was 4 of us that I knew about.
It's 3 more than I knew.
Yeah.
But
when I was living in Hilton, there was nobody else I knew. I would go to school in Brookfield. I get a bus home to Hilton, and Wednesdays or Tuesdays, I forget what day the comics hit the rack.
It was 2 Wednesdays. It used to be
just regular. Just regular. I went to the bookstore that was in the same strip mall there as the Engine Room.
The Esplanade, yeah. It was called. It was Batter's Box, I think is what it was.
No, this was
before that. Oh, that was okay.
This was 80 to 83, so there was no comic book stores around yet, and I went there, and I would take the bus into town every day. The comics are coming out, spend my paper route money and my allowance on comics, and then I'd have to walk back home. Unless
Hilden, wow, that's a long walk.
Yeah. That's how dedicated it was to get my comics.
Wow,
stuff like that.
That's amazing. Well, it's interesting because your guys' event out here is the really only comic book specific event that I could probably name, because HowCon is a big event, but it's mostly sci-fi and fantasy stuff. Comics are just sort of a footnote. They're certainly not something they promote as a big part of it, which is fine, because they're trying to appeal to all of fandom in general.
They're going to get a completely different agenda than us.
Yeah, exactly.
That including comic people is great because essentially they let a couple of us in and we can kind of go in and talk to the talent that they bring down and network with them and see if they'd be interested in coming to our show down the road a little bit or anything like that. So it's, it's good to have the different type of shows around. But yeah, I wanted to be comic focused just because the people I knew through comics, and I just figured, okay, that's what we know. Let's focus on that. And
well, it's a direct line to popular culture right now. Like,
yes, yeah.
I don't know. I'd be curious to look at the numbers of how the success of the Marvel films, and I mean even DC's films and all the like the wealth of comic book movies and series we've been getting in the past 10, 15 years. How that has translated to comic book sales. I'd be really curious to see the correlation. Just because I'm not convinced. I mean, I'm convinced the percentage of people that are, rabid fans of those franchises. I don't know what the percentage would be, but I can't imagine it's massive that would trickle down to comics if they weren't already into comics. But they are out there, and I'm really happy that they're out there, and I'm happy that in whatever way people find comics makes me happy.
Exactly.
Because believe me, as someone who's been reading them pretty much my whole life, I can totally, sort of speak to the benefits and to the fun of them. And I mean, I think people are learning now with these series and these movies, the wealth of great stories that are within them. Iron Man condenses down maybe one or two storylines from 60, 70 years of history. And there's so much more there. Same with the Spider-Man films. Same with everything, really. But, and the fact people are finding it now, even if it's for the movies, makes me happy. Like whatever way people get to it.
It's
good. So,
yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. So, we ended up getting together for that first meeting. And then Nick kind of volunteered his place to have more intimate meetings where we could kind of brainstorm. And we did that. I told the guys I wanted to do it in May, and they were going, "You mean like in 6 months?" And I said, "No. I wanted to, I had a year and a half buffer to get this going. I didn't want to put any pressure on anybody. I don't want it to be something that's taking anybody's life over. I don't want it to be work. I want us to be having fun doing it and stuff like that. So it, I wanted to make sure that we had time to get things done without it taking over our lives and stuff like that. Because I'm a single dude, but I know a lot of other people, they have their families and they need to spend time with them and other things going on besides trying to organize a convention. So I didn't want to say, let's get this done. And because I didn't think there'd be very many people that would step up for that. But, most people stepped up, were interested in helping out, whether they helped organize or became volunteers later on, because that's what they had time to do and things like that, which was great. And, pretty soon we hammered it down to the hardcore guys, the group that was going to be, looking after getting the first one off the ground and stuff like that. And for the first, I'd say 5, we kind of had the same group. And we've added a few more people to our roster, and other people have moved on. And we're looking to add more people to the organizing thing. And we kind of had a set hierarchy, and that was mostly for 5 executives as voting on stuff that we couldn't kind of come up with a definite yes or no on, or things like that, or should we do this, should we not, things like that. So we and also protect the show. We had to have like people that were financially responsible and stuff like that. And so we picked 5 people, and we're in the process now of kind of changing that out for the first time. And we're going to kind of have a thing where every 2-3 years we'll change who the ones kind of running the show exactly are. So hopefully be
that's an interesting model. I like that. It keeps things fresh and maybe can bring new stuff in. Assuming that the core group that you're alternating between are all trustworthy people.
Yes,
it sounds like it must be. So
it's all people we know, like whether they're, I've known a lot of them for 15 years now, and others have known each other. So there's people I haven't known, but they're friends of friends of the other people from the group, and we're trying to diversify because it is pretty dude heavy right now. And I've never wanted that. We had, I don't know, it doesn't matter. We had women involved at the beginning, but I think they felt they weren't being listened to, and I didn't like that. It kind of was discouraging to me that I want as many different types of voices saying, hey, this is what we should do.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so,
well, that's fantastic. Like I said, it's always seemed very well organized from the standpoint of just as a vendor, which is myself. But but I've always had a great time. I've been in every one, I believe, and it's been a blast. I'm
we're really pleased with the response. We like, as you said, it looks well organized, and that's our main thing, is to make it look good. Whether there's always stuff behind the scenes that don't work.
Oh yeah, no, I imagine, and that's the stuff. Is there any huge things that, like, huge problems you guys had to deal with that, like, you can talk about, or like, I don't want to get anyone into trouble. I know privately I've heard some stories about some guests that were problems. I don't want to name anybody, but
there has been, but that was kind of us tripping up too. Like the guest, I heard the one you're talking about. I don't want to name the dude.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Not fair to him, but he had met some of the guys from Strange Adventures before coming to our show, and they enjoyed being around him and thought it was pretty good. But yeah, he kind of it was the first time we accepted somebody who we weren't able to talk to directly. We were going through a middleman, and that was frustrating. And I was ready to just kind of say, let's. And we had him as a possible guest, and we had some other people as possible guests. And between 2 or 3 people and him, it would have cost us about the same amount. And we've had people we've reached out to who want appearance fees, and we don't do that. We're a low cost for not charity, but we're a non-for-profit group.
Yeah.
So nobody's trying to make money off this. We don't have a big bank behind us or anything like that.
You're not the Fan Expo in Toronto or anything.
We're not that at all. I was never interested in that. Again, to me, it's that word community. It's about the community.
It's about the purity of the work itself is what I feel like I'm getting from you, as far as like, it's a direct connection between the fans and the people that create the things they love. And
exactly. That's what we're looking for.
Keep that purity.
Yes.
Oh, that's very.
Is me. Oh. I was going to say. So yeah, along those lines, we had those kind of 2 things, and then we ended up having them all come. So that, and the one person kind of took advantage to a degree, but we survived it. So but, yeah,
and learned a lesson, I would assume.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I haven't heard his name since. I knew that he was moving, and he said he'd be further away when he moves. I don't know what he's doing now, if he's still involved in comics or if he's,
I haven't heard the name in comics in a while. So, and it's one of those instances where it's funny because, like, once again, I'm not going to name the person, but I was a fan. Like, I read a lot of their comics, and they walked by my table and I talked to them for a bit, and I mean, they seemed okay-ish, but also it's the first time I think because I've met so many cool comic people in my life, like just at cons that have been like, even when I had my own indie comic and I was like passing it out, like I've told the story 1,000 times on here, but like Stan Sakai and Sergio Aragonés and like were very nice and like and told me to come back the next day and had read it and gave me a bunch of tips. And like Ty Templeton also said some really nice stuff, and I got to speak with, and Tom Fowler, I think he was at your convention one year.
Yeah,
he was super nice, and I just met so many cool people that were heroes of mine as far as their work in the comic industry goes, and to meet them and see how cool they were. And I hadn't really met anyone that I would label, and I know they're out there, but like the rock star comic writer, like the one who acts like that, like a bit like the rock star level of that. And I got that vibe immediately after, like that they were fairly high in their own work, which is fine. There's a level of confidence, but I was also like, oh, you're not like, because I value people that are humble a lot. And I was just like, oh, well, you're not that kind of person. So, and it's fine. It's just not generally the personality I gel with very much. So.
And I've even wondered, going through that third person, I've often wondered, and it's probably not true, but it was a, not a good experience for us. And I wondered if even that third person that we were supposedly dealing with was just him with a fake moniker and stuff like that.
Well, very possible.
But who knows? Who knows? And
it's like all that stuff when Trump was in office in the States. They had all these footage of like he had a PR person that would talk on the phone for him, and there's video footage or audio that's obviously him pretending to be somebody else. Like it's just oh yes, I represent the offices of so and so. Well, that's funny.
And I guess the other issue with that guy was that he kind of brought down, had some of the people who were other guests kind of following his behavior kind of stuff.
Oh, really?
He was playing host at the hotel and stuff like that. So which was, on our dime, but it's what it is. We recovered from it. So we're not, it's just a lesson learned. We had first couple of years, we had people who asked for appearance fees and stuff like that. And we said we can't do it, and we just kind of had come to and I had basically, and I think the other guys too, were been pretty adamant that we weren't going to. If anybody asked for that, we were just going to say, okay, sorry, as much as we'd like to hear, but that's not what we can do. So we're just going to slough those people off and move on to the next possibility. And with this person, we didn't, and it proved to be kind of a pain. So
yeah.
It's what it was, but the lesson learned. Now we know for sure.
Yeah, and imagine with I'm obviously Nick being part of your organization, who when I've mentioned cool comic people I met, I totally missed him, which is one of the coolest. There's very few that I could say I went to their house and had dinner with them, their family, and had a really good time, and it's treated me like a friend right from the get go. So Nick and Dan,
he's like that with everybody. He's lovely. He's a dude. Yeah.
Yeah, but having him in your corner and being able to vet some of these people, or at least make those connections, has got to be incredibly huge.
Yeah, no, he's vetted a lot of stuff for us, and will point us in the right direction a lot of times. A lot of the guests we've had are people that he's become friends with as he's done the circuit and stuff like that, of doing shows in the States and things like that. So it's good to have that connection. For sure that it's going to be a decent person if Nick recommends that we should reach out to them. So it's, but there's others that we've reached out to, just, like I said, there hasn't been that many bad experiences, and pretty happy with, how everything's gone so far.
Well, for the first 5 years, I'd say it's been gangbusters.
Yeah. It would be, if we had done one this year, would have been our 10th. It will.
Yeah, you just announced
one every year.
Too long ago that you were not doing this year, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And what was the impetus behind that? Was it mostly just the COVID regulations, or was it?
Yeah, COVID regulations. It's still not certain, and we hadn't really done much for planning, just because we can't get together and do meetings. We'd done a couple of Zoom things, but they were more just like housekeeping stuff for the group itself, and not really looking forward to having a show this year. We had hoped to do one, but it just kind of got too late in the game to be 100% ready. And if we had done it, we were going to basically have like people from the area. We probably wouldn't have gone outside of the Maritimes or Atlantic Canada for guests. Just keep it, so that we don't have plane tickets that are bought that we can't get fully reimbursed on, hotel rooms that we aren't fully reimbursed on, and stuff like that. We were going to, keep it very low costing for us, but still to rent, the venues half of our budget. So that's still, it could still be costly. So it's
well, people don't understand. Like, it's funny because I run I do a bunch of different stuff. One of them is wrestling, and I used to run the shows here in Truro. Still do once we're getting, hopefully things going to do that again this year. But everyone's asking me during COVID, when you run shows, I'm like, man, I was booked for 4 shows in a row that all got canceled and had to reschedule. And it's I don't want to get into that. It's such a and it's so minuscule compared to what you guys would have to deal with planes and people. So to be to book wrestlers and get all that stuff figured out and find a weekend that other people weren't wrestling on, some other promotion was running. It's a lot of hassle. Yeah. So people are like, I
It
get the
is, yeah.
fans really want to be there because believe me, I do too for your guys' event and for
Yeah,
wrestling.
I want to be doing it too. Yeah,
But it's also
definitely.
you get the nightmare that it is for people organizing it. It's and if it doesn't go
Yeah,
right, and especially in an uncertain time like we just had, I mean things are opening
yeah.
now, but I'm still hesitant to really put anything in stone because who knows? You know, maybe there's a new
Who knows?
variant
Yeah,
and things get crazy again. What's going to happen? So
yeah,
I'm hoping this is
yeah. There's
it,
a
but
lot of
you know,
yeah, a lot of the logistics involved. Yeah, it's, like you said, not only is it getting it organized, but if things don't, then getting money back to people and canceling things and stuff like that. Just it would be a huge headache for us if we had to do that. And it's just like I said, we're all volunteers. We don't get anything out of this other than enjoying putting a show on and getting to meet all the cool writers and artists that we've had come through the show so far, and many more to come, hopefully.
yeah, no, it's you guys have done some great stuff, and I've had a great time being there, and definitely want to be a part of it going forward. So I always thought
Yeah,
it'd be
we
fun. Oh,
go ahead.
I always thought it'd be fun to do one of these live, like with an audience. So
Yes.
I'd like to do that sometime, maybe Pro Chalcon or one of the other groups, and see if I could get that going because I think that'd be really fun.
Well, that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah. We are hoping to do something this year that would be very low cost, with possibly no price to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe do it in a venue that hopefully the city can just let us use for the day. Not, but it would be. I don't know if we'd have vendors there. We would certainly invite any of the comic
Oh
people
yeah,
from
that'd be
the
great.
area to come along. But we're talking about it. I think Derek is reaching out to see if the venue that we've been thinking about would be available, and so we hope to do some stuff, but it just won't be the major show
Straight
this
up,
year.
cool. And as far as, are you guys planning for next year now, or is that something you're going to leave some time?
Yes, yeah, we are planning for that now. We're just next meeting is basically going to be the vote as to who will be the new leaders, for lack of a better word, because it's really just we
So
all have
sounds like a
input.
secret ceremony, like there's robes
Yeah,
and maybe
yeah.
you guys slaughter a lamb or something. And
No, no, it's just people who are gonna if they're interested, they'll let somebody know, put their name up for one of the 5 positions, and then we'll just have votes on it. It's going to be pretty straightforward, and with everybody in the group, I kind of want people to maybe have a couple or 3 years experience within the group before they put their name into the hat for anything like that. But that's not just because you don't know them that well, but they get familiar with everybody, and everybody gets familiar with them and knows what they're capable of and all that. So, but yeah, so once we do that, then we'll get full blown into who we're going to invite and stuff like that. And got some, the people that were going to come for our 8th show in 2019, the first one we weren't able to do, or no, 2020, sorry.
yeah,
They had all said they would come back. They're all interested in coming. So, we'll reach out to them and see if they're still interested in coming. And based on whenever we do our show, and then we'll reach out to some other people. I've had some people reach out that would be interested in coming because I had invited them before. They weren't able to come the year that I had invited them, but they actually reached out to see if they would that they'd be interested in coming the next year. So, of course, not having 3 in a row now, that's kind of put things on hold, but I'll certainly send the emails out and see what happens.
do you find like with some of the folks that come out, because I mean, obviously for these events you can make some money, you can meet some of your fans, but also it's a way to travel and see the world. Do you find like it's a chunk of people that just want an excuse to come out this way and see what it's like?
Sometimes, like it's our first year, we had Ramon Perez.
I had him on the show. He's great, fantastic guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I got to meet him, I think, at the HalCon before our first show, and then he was a guest at our first show. And I think it was our first show. I could be wrong on that, but anyways, he and his best friend have want to visit every province.
Mm-hmm.
in Canada. So, coming to New Brunswick got to our show, got them to, and they had talked about maybe on the Sunday or Monday going to PI just so they could say they'd been there, but I don't think they made it. But, some of them are coming, even to throw a name out there, and hopefully we'll get him some days. But Michael Von Owen, am I saying that right? From Powers.
Oh,
Michael
but
Michael Omen.
yeah, Michael even Oming, yeah.
Tripping over his name.
Oh, that's all right. Oh man, I'd love his work. He'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, well, I follow him on Facebook, and I had announced our show one year. I can't remember. It might have been the last one we actually did, and he said, "Oh, I'd love to come out to that." And I know that there's a show in New Jersey that has a very similar name to ours.
Oh, really?
And so I said, I got in a message and just said to him, just so you know, we're in New Brunswick, Canada, not the one in Jersey. And I don't know if he knew that for sure or not, but he said, "Oh, I'd still like to come out sometime because I have Viking heritage," and he knows that there's been, that there's spots around here to visit that I don't know if he knows how far away they are from where we are, but he still said, "I'm really busy right now, but maybe sometime down the road I'd be interested." So I've got that in the back of my mind at some point to, maybe get him out. And his partner is a colorist and artist, Taki Soma. So, it's nice to have couples come out because it's, they've got a comfort blanket with them and having somebody.
It's a vacation they can do together.
Yeah, exactly. It's a vacation they can do together. And,
I'm sure I'm butchering their names, but you had the Imonins out. I never pronounced his name right. Yeah. Immonen, right?
Yeah, we had both. Yeah, we had both Immonens.
Yeah, they were really cool to meet.
Yeah, they were nice people, really nice people. And we had, when Tom Fowler was here, we had his wife with him, and Fred Lenti was here the same year, and he had his wife with him. I shouldn't say wives. I don't know if they're partners officially married or not.
Yeah, their partners covers it.
Yeah. And other things like that. So, it's we, Ty and his wife were out. So yeah, we've tried to do that to accommodate that as much as we can. Yeah.
It's a real love letter to the fans to into the creators themselves, and it's a great link to make that happen. You guys, it's definitely been one of the more the most easy to approach those sort of people events I think I've been to. And we want to keep that way. Well, I was going to say this earlier, but we like to keep, and I hope it's true, we like to keep the costs of our tables low so that people can come and make money off of what they're selling and not just break even or anything like that. We want to keep the cost of entry low so that people can come and enjoy themselves and not have to, spend an hour or two of their take-home pay to wages to get into the show. And we're trying to run it as cost effective as we can for both. Oh, it's
people that are setting up there, people that are attending. Yeah.
My biggest problem is there's always somebody with a table that has a bunch of stuff I want.
To me too.
Yeah. There was one year, there's some guy, I think he had a comic store in Sackville, and I think he closed it. He was liquidating what he had left at his table.
Tom Bowser was one of the owners of that.
And man, he had all those big artist editions, and I was just grabbing them all because they were going for so cheap. Yeah. And I love them, so I have so much of them now, but they're fantastic.
Yeah, is it Richard Black? No, it's not Richard. I forget. Andrew Black and Tom Bowser were the owners of that.
Yeah, it was Black Bowser Comics, right?
Yeah, and Tom was one of our original co-organizers. He's moved on since, but yeah, he opened that store, and they did it for 5 years, I think. But then they'd always been. They grew up in that area. Always dreamed of doing that. They ended up they had to close it, but they blew out all their stock.
Yeah. I hate to see a comic store close down, but hey, if I can help them recoup some of their money, I'm definitely going to do it. That's for sure. And take some tidy books home while doing so. But no, it's always been a super fun event, and just it's funny because it's like a sense of community with, like, just speaking as a vendor, and I guess I haven't spoke about it very much on the show. I actually have one coming up this weekend. Not this one. Is it this weekend? Yeah, this coming weekend. Yes, I am. Yeah.
Right.
So
I've been over to that one.
Well, it's only been around for a couple of years, isn't it?
Yeah, 3 or 4 now, I think. They might have done their first one. They might even be their 5th one this year. Because I know that they did one. they did one before us the last time we did ours in 2019. So
Okay.
it might be the fourth one this year.
Because I was talking to Cal at Strange when I was picking up my comics there not too long ago, and he was like, "Are you going?" And I'm like, I kind of missed putting my thing in. It's probably too late. And he's like, "Just message him and find out, man." He says it's really fun, and it's a great event. So I was like, "All right." So I just messaged him out of the blue, and I mean, the cost for the table was not very expensive, and they had one cancellation, I think, just before I called or before I messaged them.
Right.
It worked out really well.
Yeah.
And I got friends that live there, and like it's a real sense of kind of community when you go to these things. Like, sure, you're set up, you're drawing, you're selling art. For me, it's art, but for the most part, you get to hang out with people that like friends that you meet along the way. It's like kind of the only chance you get to see them sometimes during the year. So it's a really fun environment, and your guys has a I think it brings us. I think that word "full circle" brings us back to that community, which I think is
exactly. And you, like you said, you might not, because we don't all live in the same city or anything like that, you don't see them as often as maybe you'd like to, but these shows around help us meet physically and stuff like that, and you can stay in touch on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, but meeting people and catching up with them in person to person is a great thing. So the more shows around, I think the better. It's just like Cal always told me, I want to be the best comic book store, but I want there to be lots of comic book stores because it helps the hobby grow. People go in randomly to there's a comic book store around the corner instead of having to go downtown. Then they're more apt to maybe find something that they like without having to go out of their way to find it. So when we were kids, or at least when I was kids, you had spinning racks at every corner store and every bookstore, stuff like that, where you could find without having to go to a comic specific, brick and mortar store.
That's. Do you find that like, because like back in the day, the spinner racks, because even like they were still a thing when I was around, like at a Needs or something. But like that's where you'd get your Batman, your Spider-Man, the mainstream stuff. The comic stores is where you could find those weird indie comics like American Splendor maybe, or that sort of stuff. Small independent press stuff. But and I used to still kind of think that way, but now with the advent of like big chain stores carrying stuff like Chapters and that sort of stuff, because like when I walk into some of these places, I see some of the trades they have in their trade section. It's surprising to me about some of these super indie super esoteric sort of things that they carry. So but the comic stores on the block will have those, and then the stuff that they don't carry in those places. So I'm always like, man, go seek out some of the weird stuff that you're not going to see, you're not going to find. You'll get introduced to some interesting stuff that you've never heard of before. Like I remember when I was a kid, I just went to Cal store. Like I was super young with my cousin, and I walked around the store for like an hour because I couldn't choose what to buy. And Cal was like, Cal goes, how much money do you have? And I was probably like 10. I was like, like $25 or something. And he was like, give it to me and I'll give you some good stuff. And he just picked out some stuff and it was great. I was happy. But I think he's probably sick of watching me walk around for his store for an hour. But I mean, that's the kind of experience you get with the brick and mortar comic stores that are run by exactly. And same with events like yours that are run by people that have a real love and passion for it. I mean, what Cal says is right. A rising tide floats all boats, they say. And
exactly.
It really helps.
And if I was always when I was doing retail, I worked at two of the stores up here in Moncton. I was, if we didn't have something, I was not hesitant to say, well, you can go down to the other store and check it out. Or if they don't have it, you might find it. If it's a graphic novel, you might find it at Chapters. So, I didn't want to ever be the person that said, no, there's no other place you can.
You're never going to read this.
Because you're not going to. If that person finds out about the other store, then they're going to have a bad memory of you. And to me, it's always no. I want that person to find what they're looking for, and because we could order stuff in, but if they're looking for it right away, it might not be 2 or 3 weeks before we get it, or it might be at a print. So. You're better to send them off to somewhere else. And that's, Cal's philosophy. Well, there's other stores around. Hopefully they're sending, if they don't have something, hopefully they're sending you to one of the other stores or telling you there's these other places, maybe you can find it, things like that. So people get to see all the different ones and find out what suits them. Because some people just want to get their books, go home and read. some people love to chat about it. Some people like, a guy up here had I don't know if it was a blog or exactly how he had it set up, but it was a bunch of us would go on, and I think anybody was allowed to go on and basically say, this is what's coming out this week. This is what I'm buying. And, when I was doing it, I would pick maybe one title every week and just kind of say why I liked it, stuff like that, and things like that. And other guys would do the same, and, just things like that. I lost my train of thought. But it's just, it just helps you, find other stuff and things like that. And okay, they're reading a few of the titles I read, plus they're reading this one. I might be interested in that as well. But yeah, when I was younger, it was no comic book stores. A guy I knew, and then I started going to Halifax in high school, and there was Odyssey 2000.
I remember that store. I was it closed up, I think, shortly after I started going there. But it was. And then, it was not the place I liked the most, but it was close to St. Mary's campus, so that's where I had my account. I not to speak ill, but I kind of remember the owner being a jerk. But I was only like,
we were I had nothing good to say about that.
Okay, yeah. I don't remember his name or anything else about him. I just remember my cousin went in there, and my cousin picked up something and he yelled at him for touching it or something. So
he's just he was running a business like people run, like a business, but there was it wasn't.
I feel like comics is something you can't run that way. You can't run a comic store and approach it just like a business. You need to have a love for it. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable, probably.
That's like Gamezilla was the same way. Like, as much as I worked there, but I loved it. I could recommend stuff to people, and the owner would go to me, I don't know how you sell stuff. We're not able to sell stuff. You don't read it. You're just selling it for the sake to make money off of, because it's something to do. It's just. And he finally started reading a few things, and one was like Warren Ellis's Black Summer or something like that. And he was raving with it. Yeah, he really liked it, and he was recommending it to people, and he was selling a bunch of them. And I go, you gotta know the stuff to sell the stuff, as far as I'm concerned.
And people can feel the passion too in you. Like if you're passionate about something, I used to do the comics for the Stomping Grounds that was here in Truro.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
So they were kind of took over when Gamezilla closed up, and and I would have all these conversations with people about comics, and I would sell people on them just because they look at the rack and be like, "Yeah, have you read this?" And they'd be like, "Yes," or like, "No, but I know that artist, he wrote this, or that writer wrote this, and it was fantastic." So you could give them insight enough to make them feel like it's inspired, and that they get a chance at something. So,
and I've had people come in cold, maybe they watched Walking Dead and they want to get into more comics and stuff like that, because I know Walking Dead has generated, that's one thing that has definitely generated a lot of sales of
I'm 100% sure those books are reprinted every day, it seems. Like new editions and color editions and other we
would get them in, and at either store that I worked at, and they'd be gone. You basically had to reorder pretty much, if not every week. You were at some point you could judge how many you should order for a month or something like that, and just and then reorder for the next month with your month. And
most frustrating thing I always found was number one was always the one that seemed to be toughest to order. It's the first trade to get somebody into a comic, and that's what you need the most of. So just give me lots of one so you can get the rest sold.
A lot of so I got into going to comics stores in Halifax. There was Odyssey. There was another one I liked a lot more, and I forget the name of it now, but the guy actually has been to our show recently.
Oh, cool.
And he's got a store down in the valley somewhere now. I forget the name of it too. I can't. But
I think I know who this person is. The guy. It wasn't Quantum, was it? Was it Quantum?
No, it wasn't Quantum. He was on Rogby Street.
Right by the Lion's Head.
Was the Lion's Head there?
The tavern. Yeah.
No, not that. No, not that one. No, this one was down closer to the Commons. He's basically at the one corner of the Commons, and he 7 days a week for I don't know how long. He worked 24/7 basically, and he left to go painting. He sold his stuff to the Monster Comic guys.
Okay.
and that was their first site until they moved down to were they on Gottingen now? I
Yes.
can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, no, I guess it wasn't him that sold it out. He sold to who's the banker from Fredericton or St. John that bought a bunch of places? Wilkie's.
Oh,
He
yeah.
sold out
Yeah.
to Wilkie's.
Yeah.
Late 80s, and then Wilkie's sold to Monster Comic Con.
That's a place that is that place is still talked about with reverence from a lot of comic fans in the Halifax area.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was never something I think it was gone before I was old enough to get into Halifax enough to be able to go do my own thing. But
Yeah.
it was certainly a well-loved spot.
Oh, yeah. The one he had, like I got a lot of late 60s and 70s Neil Adams stuff there. And he was the first place where I to see some of the independent stuff like Image and stuff like that. Or not Image, First Comics with Sable and American Flag and stuff like that.
Oh man, that's a deep cut. I used to
Yeah,
read
and,
the E-Man. I used to read those.
Yeah, E-Man.
Yeah,
I read those. I was always a creator guy. Like I like characters, but I got to know who the creators were and I followed them. So when Howard Chaykin left DC and Marvel to do his own stuff, I followed him. I followed Mike Grell from Legion of Superheroes and Warlord into, his Star Slayer and his John Sable and stuff like that. And and them doing that, going to independent publishers, like you said, it opened your eyes to all the other stuff out there. Love and Rockets, I've been a fan of since issue 2 came out.
Would any of the Hernandez brothers be a white whale for you to get to the show?
To me, yeah. Love and Rockets is my favorite comic book of all time. I've been, like I said, I bought number 2 when it came out. I got I think a facsimile or something like that of number 1 that they put out basically as a reprint, but not as, I don't think quite as a good paper. But I've bought everything those guys have put out since, both of them. So yeah, Jaime's probably my favorite artist right now going. I just love his subtle.
There's a podcast I listen to called the best movies. No, sorry, the movies that made me, or movies that made us. And it's just it's Josh Olson, who's a script writer. He wrote the script for History of Violence, the movie.
Okay,
and Joe Dante, who's the director of Gremlins, and I'm a huge fan of Dante. So they just have people on the show and they talk to them about the movies that inspire them, or some got people come on with their top 10 favorite, musicals or horror movies or whatever. And they had, and sometimes comic people bleed in. They had Stephen Bissett, who did the art on Swamp Thing, Elmore Swamp Thing, on one episode. And they had one of the Hernandez brothers. I can't remember which one on an episode as well, which is very interesting. So it's a cool episode. If you're ever looking for more content to deal with that, but
I'd love to have those guys down. There's a lot of, we'd like to get more old school guys. We've had a lot of kind of contemporary people, but some of us are older and have people that we loved in the 70s and 80s that might not be relevant now, but would still be cool to have. And I've had Mike Cross. You're probably aware of who Mike Cross is, but he's keeps wondering if we're going to get some of those older. And I said I've reached out to some of them, and some have said maybe, some have said when I can, and some just aren't going to come here.
I don't want to throw people at you that I want to see there, but
it's something I would like to do. Is I would like to have on our Facebook or Twitter or something. Just send us your suggestions, and if you know how to get in contact with them, let us know that too. And we could reach out to them. We're limited in how many we can bring each year, but
I've always wanted to meet Jim Starlin. He's always been a huge you
should. I don't know if you talked to Nick about his first comic book convention experience, but you'll have to ask him sometime because it was in Chicago. And he was sitting next to Jim Starlin.
Oh man,
and his parents were there, so the parents got to know Jim Starlin. They hung out. So you'll have to ask him.
A friend of mine got me his art book, and it's signed by him. And he also got me to sign. I don't even see in the wall behind me, but there was a copy of the first issue of Infinity Gauntlet signed by him, and Casada. Perez. It's signed by Perez and by him, which is cool.
Nice.
So I've always been a massive fan. Him and John Byrne are two guys I've always really wanted to meet. I've always loved John Byrne.
Yeah, John Byrne, I'd love to have around. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez is somebody I'd love to have.
Oh wow.
Mike Grell I like a lot. So there's, and Nick knows Howard Chaykin a bit, and I've always followed Howard's stuff. So it'd be but we also don't want to just do it for ourselves. We want to, the relevant, relevant people right now are, people that are, doing some stuff that people are going to recognize, because we've realized as we've done the show that a name doesn't mean as much to a lot of the audience as far as the creator name goes as the character name. So, even if you get, we've had Tony Moore, and we've had, some people that are involved in some pretty big name things, and bringing Tony Moore in with, Walking Dead at its height. And, you say this guy's the creator of Walking Dead. It didn't jump our numbers at all. And there's certain things that you think our numbers, like, oh, if we got that guy, we're gonna have a few more people to deal with and stuff like that. And then nothing's jumped our numbers. So we've realized the name and stuff. It's just, they want to buy art, but they don't particularly, some of them don't particularly know what that person's done or anything like that. But
so you find like saying this guy's the artist that draws Wolverine would be more than saying this is Nick Bradshaw.
That's why, you'll see a lot of our announcements are, who the person is, but it'll be maybe more their mainstream stuff, just because that's what more the audience is going to be aware of.
Yeah, well, that's super cool.
If it's not the best stuff they've done, or the more personal stuff, to me is always better when they get to do what they want and how they want to do it and things like that. It's just to me that it always shines through.
Oh, well, I'm a big supporter, and I'm definitely going to, if I can help in any way. I mean, if you want to skim through my guest list, I'd be happy to help you with any content of anybody that you need to reach out to if you need to.
That'd be awesome.
I know a friend of my old roommate, David Cutler. He draws for Marvel right now. I've had him on the show not too long ago. He's the one who's drawing the new Thunderhawk character they're bringing back to life in Uncanny X-Men.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So he designed his costume and is doing the comic. He also had a story in that new Marvel Heritage Voices, and he designed the Native American Captain America, Joe Gomez, that they did in that comic from a while ago. So he's from Newfoundland, but he used to live down here when he went to St. X. And he was we worked together when I was in high school and he was going to university, and he lived with me in Truro for a little while when he was in between figuring out what to do. So I'm sure he would love to come down. Toronto.
He's in Toronto. Okay. Yeah. No, I'd love to have him here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure he would be would be very happy to come down. So I'll definitely put you two in touch for sure.
That'd be great.
And anybody else? Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Cool. Anybody else that I've had on the show, I can always put your contact info towards them.
Yeah. Run down who you've had on. Yeah, that's great.
I know Rob Gilroy was
even the when Where Monsters Dwell, when the guys were doing that was kind of part of the community as well at the time, and they had, Mike Campbell, Monster Mike, was doing the Jimmy Palmiotti thing every once in a while, and so that was a connection we had, and they had talked to a bunch of other people, and I got to go out and talk with them, and talk to. I think it was Mark Wade that was their guest.
Man, that would be a dream come true too.
Yeah.
Listen off the older guys. It's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite has always been Mark Bagley. I've always wanted to meet him. He was when I was a kid, I was in heaven when they were putting out 4 Spider-Man comics a month, and they were drawn by Mark Bagley, Tom Lyle, Sal Buscema, or his son Sal Buscema, and who's the other one? Oh, I can't remember his name, but man, they were that was like the dream team for me for Spider-Man comics. I love their every artist was amazing, and they were just and also cool and different.
Yeah, but, definitely. We'll have to reach out.
Yeah, reach out anytime, and anything I can do to help, I'll definitely be there.
Awesome. Yeah.
But thanks for being on the show. Anything I missed? Anything coming up besides that I missed that you want to plug or talk?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, there was the official announcement a couple of weeks ago that we won't be doing our full show this year, but hopefully people will stay tuned because we do have some ideas for some things we will do this year later in the fall, probably.
That is fantastic. Well, my screen screwed up on me. That is fantastic. And I'm very excited to see what the future brings, especially with guests and whatnot. And I think my table's still paid for next year. So
you're one of the ones. Yeah.
So I'll be there.
Keep going. Maybe we should just at this point offer to give that money back because I don't like holding on to people's money for.
I'm okay with
too
it.
long.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
If you need the
But
okay from
yeah,
me.
we're gonna have a show, so it's if, next year for sure. So anybody that's paid for their table will be first on the list.
Well, I will be there.
All right, cool.
All right, thanks, Don. It's great. Oh, yeah. Thank you, man. Any time. And if you ever want to, like, you need something coming up, you want to help me promote, I'll be happy to do it in the show.
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention that because we, Brent is what's it called? I forget the name of it, but a couple other guys are doing a podcast out of the Fredericton University, and Brent does a lot of stuff with them, especially with the Marvel movies and stuff like that. But he also, anytime we have announcements and stuff like that, he'll go on and talk about that. So yeah, if you're open to that, then
100%. Yeah, just drop me a line anytime.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Awesome. Put me in your press crew.
I'll get in touch with you sometime down visiting my parents. And,
anytime. Yeah, no, dude. I'll be over to the house or meet you for dinner or something. Or yeah, anytime. I'm down in Old Barns if you remember where that is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So not too far from town.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Right. Well, thanks again, Don.
Yeah. Take care.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was my conversation with Don Mann of the East Coast Comic Expo. Wasn't it a great talk, folks? A lot of fun. As I mentioned, Don does seem to have been seeking a community, and I think he's found it. And it's a lovely story and some interesting stuff that you can take away from maybe learning more about the ins and outs of the convention circuit, the people that are running it, their passion for this, and the amount of hard work they have to go through to make it a reality, to give us the space that we can get together and talk about all the nerdy things we want to talk about and be part of the community that we've built through our love of these various franchises, sci-fi, comics, what have you. Don's passionate about it, and it really shows through in the way he talks and the output he's done with the East Coast Comic Expo and other avenues throughout the time I've known him. But he's definitely a champion for the comics industry out here on the East Coast, and I was very happy to talk to him. I can't thank him enough for being on the show. And I can't thank you enough, gentle listener, for tuning in. If you haven't already, please follow the Facebook page. Follow me on Instagram, Graphic Histories. If you don't subscribe, please do so on one of the avenues we're on. We're on CastBox, Stitcher, iTunes, podcasts, and Spotify. We're all in there. Plus, you can listen to it on the website as well. Please subscribe to the feed. That would be very much appreciated. Please like the page and, share. If you just want to share the post with some people you think might enjoy it, might enjoy listening to some people talk about comics or learn about some of their favorite creators, please do so. I had a lot of fun doing the show, and I would like to help as many people as possible listen to it as well because, it's fun. I may be a biased commentator, but I do believe that it is a fun show, and I think there are a lot of laughs are had, and I think they could be had while listening as well. So thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you in 2 weeks' time. Goodbye.